Either way, I think we win in this matchup, regardless of who wins, and we are about to go live, so let's shoot it over to our casters and get into the action.
Thank you very much, and indeed we are into the action here. clawz versus Cooler. What a matchup we have here on our hands at S6. What a pleasure to cast.
Yeah, absolutely thrilled to see clawz make it this far, particularly against someone of Cooler's quality, and I'm intrigued to see how the Cooler can react and adapt, as we spoke about earlier, to clawz's impeccable aim.
A few exchanges here between the players, but nothing really substantial. Soul lag for Cooler there, and clawz on the Nyx, waiting for the heavy armor. Here comes some pressure from Cooler, see if he's able to get some damage off on to the clawz, who is waiting for that heavy, able to pick it up, but how much damage will he sustain as he tries to go for the exit? Oh, Cooler actually thinking to perhaps go for the drop there, but he will be pushed back by the LG work of clawz, so...
Both being extremely greedy in his opening exchanges. clawz unwilling to pop that Ghost Walk despite being very, very low, and Cooler pushing in and not hitting any rails and really costing him, but able to fall back on the Mega, so it's not too bad just yet.
How do you feel about the first choices here? Champion versus champion, soul lag and Nyx will have to hold that fort here. Two close range rails there. The Ghost Walk popped. He knows that he's done so much damage. There's the finish with the LG out of the Ghost Walk. Cooler, pretty unlucky start for him, but clawz, where will he take this momentum now? Another engagement here. Looks like Cooler really wants to bring the pressure straight back to clawz. clawz was pretty healthy after the last engagement, but Cooler down to 1 HP, finishing off clawz with that machine gun. And now it's down to Anarchy.
I'm pretty intrigued because I said earlier that soul lag was pretty much a mandatory pick, and we haven't got it from clawz's side. Instead, he's gone for a full aggression approach with the Anarchy, the Slash, and the Nyx, whereby clawz can utilize that speed to really capitalize on really on the speed element that he has on all three of the champions.
And right now I like how Cooler is playing this. He's just looking for some information. He's got a decent stack, looking to perhaps catch clawz, ready to try to go for one of these guns, the lightning gun in particular in that instance. But still no information right now from Cooler. It's hard to really deduce what's happening.
And this is what we've seen a lot from Cooler, as opposed to most other players in this tournament so far, is really using the sound clues and waiting for that information, because one of Cooler's strengths is that he adapts around what the player is doing, and he's unwilling to take those risks, particularly only with now 2 champions remaining. He must know what clawz is doing and where he is before he decides what move he's going to make, and it's extremely smart but difficult way to play as well.
And looks like he's going to catch clawz close range. The Anarchy, the Ghost Walk popped here as he goes for the pursuit here. Good damage, Anarchy pinned in the corner there. And that's the finish there from the LG of Cooler. Excellent work. And that patience absolutely paying off. Exactly,
just patience. And that's exactly what it was. clawz playing into his hands and following up perfectly there, diving down with the Ghost Walk and using it semi-aggressively.
Cooler now just using this patience to extreme effect. I mean, he's in a position right now where he's a champion ahead of clawz. He doesn't have to make any rash moves. Once again, waiting for those sound cues. He knows that clawz is above him, just waiting for a perfect engagement. And here it is, sliding into the LG. That's not what you want in clawz's position, as Cooler is able to get superior positioning towards the heavy, but still clawz wants to try to challenge, perhaps, looking to take the rail engagement against Cooler. That might not be so wise, though, and he will back away and not receive any rails, which is very good news for him. He's not the healthiest. That's a great shot there from Cooler, as clawz passes the pillar's position.
And the one thing that Cooler's doing very well since clawz has been on the Anarchy and now the Slash is that both of these champions need to take routes around the map, because their speed is based on having open, kind of rotations, if you will. And Cooler's setting up traps based on where they are going, and it's working out absolutely ideally. Just catching them in the corridors. That's exactly what happened to the second kill on the Anarchy, and that's what's happened twice now. Catching the Slash, going around those corners where it needs to slide.
Love how smart Cooler's playing it, but also very nice shots connected so far. We'll whiff the second rail there, but the first one will give him an advantage, and he knows it. The problem really is trying to close down clawz, but that's a really nice poke from clawz, just catching Cooler off guard and going for the aggressive play. clawz, what can he find here? Ghost Walk is forced to be popped by Cooler now as he goes back towards the LG.
And this is a dangerous 30 seconds. Last 30 seconds of the map, and there is no Ghost Walk remaining.
Another good rail connected here, but the Mega is there to keep Cooler in a decent stead. He's got a light armor there as well, but he's also got a clawz bearing down upon him, drilling away with that lightning gun. And clawz just having to try to evade here, trying to use that champion advantage. 10 seconds to go right now as clawz tries desperately to find him, going for the slide. Can't see where Cooler is. Cooler knows exactly where he is though, just staying still, using the sound cues to inform his decisions. And that's an excellent series of plays there from Cooler to put him ahead early in this series.
Exactly, really great play. Playing, it looks passive, but it's also quite aggressive because you're playing out in the open and you're quite vulnerable because if you make a mistake, then clawz can really pounce upon you. But he pays attention, knows where clawz is going and really blocks those routes, doing massive amount of damage, and that limits clawz's potential to go on the aggressive.
Yeah, it's really cool to see how Cooler's playing positionally so far. It's been beautiful. Whenever he's in a spot with that Ghost Walk up, he's got a lot of proficiency here, but there it is. It's going to be clawz being forced to pop the Ghost Walk. And that's great news here for Cooler because he's got the spit. He's going to land that spit, I think, as well. And this is a very dead clawz there. That Nyx has been sent back to the bench as it now is up to Anarchy here for clawz. And Cooler looks strong right now.
Looks really, really strong. He has clawz's number at the moment. The double back there was just completely unexpected on clawz's side. And it's just Cooler playing smart at the moment. Really enjoyable to watch.
Taking his time. And it's an interesting difference of styles considering that, as you mentioned, clawz opting to go with these champions with very fast movement options. And there it is, Cooler once again catching clawz with the Anarchy. Speed is not your friend at this point. That is amazing how Cooler's playing against that because so many players in this current meta are trying to rely on very speedy playstyles and Cooler's just laying traps waiting.
Yep. And this, in my opinion, is one of the most effective ways. Speaking to Cooler before, he says the Anarchy is useless. And if you can play like this, if you can use the sound cues and set up traps just like he's doing here, doesn't work at that time, but if you can set up traps just like he's doing around these corners where these smaller, weaker champions are running into you, then yes, of course they're going to be weak. And of course they're not going to be valuable to you. And it's a very difficult play style to play.
There's quite a few players, well, very few players at the top level that can really make the perfect decision-making with the speed because it's quite the burden sometimes, but we'll see clawz making a lot of noise here. As per usual, that seems to be the case that Cooler's much more informed in these engagements.
Yeah, Slash is one of these champions where you'd have to make a little bit of noise and move around the map fast to make most amount of use of what she offers, which is that crouch slide. Yes, and whilst, okay, a little bit of a thing going on, but whilst you can catch them off guard, you're also quite vulnerable if you do not know exactly where your opponent is, and that's why Cooler is playing extremely quietly around the map. Nice rails coming out from clawz and forcing that Ghost Walk out, which gives him the opportunity to go aggressive here.
And nice respect from Cooler there just to pop that Ghost Walk after the first rail received.
And the one thing that clawz knows now is that Cooler needs these time shards. That's why he's going to be trying to hunt for Cooler where he needs to go.
I feel like clawz is in a position where he's really going to be pushed to have to out-damage Cooler, out-aim him in a lot of these engagements, because Cooler is really playing a very smart game. And he has the information advantage almost all of the time.
And I think in this iteration of the game, we've seen that Cooler actually has one of the strongest aims, not something we could say in the past, and that's what makes him very scary in this event as well. It's quite under-respected, as we see here with the LGs coming out from both sides, but this time clawz, the self-anointed best LG in the world, winning that exchange.
Yeah, very confident with the LG. Cooler perhaps misinterpreting the engagement there, and clawz is back in this one now as things are tied up. Onto the Ranger is Cooler at the moment. You see clawz just looking for an opportunity to get some of that vertical lightning gun damage. We saw Razy very good at that in the previous matches where he was playing. So close to defeating Rafa, but unable to in the end. clawz now looking for that next opportunity, but again, making all the noise. Cooler looking for that moment to strike here. The LG came out, dropping for the heavy. Good damage done onto clawz's slash. clawz has to be really careful because Cooler is in a good position on the stack. And if Cooler looks to actually get a bit of extra chip damage here, he might decide to just commit into the fight.
He has used Dial, but as we see, it's only got another 8 seconds to go, and the items are split by 15 seconds, which is pretty much a perfect split in order for him to fall back on one item when he's going aggressive.
Here he goes, trying to get himself in there, sliding into the pillars, and it's going to be Cooler to catch clawz. Perhaps an aggression that clawz will regret, as Cooler will be taking the second round against clawz on Blood Covenant. It's a great start for him so far.
It looks comfortable for Cooler, and from my perspective, I think we need to see clawz falling back a little bit more, playing safer, as we saw Voodoo against Avec when Avec was going on the aggressive. Yes, Cooler's not pushing out, but he's reading clawz particularly effectively. So clawz needs to try and slow the game down. We've seen that work with his rail game at the moment. He's winning those rail battles, and I think that's where he has a lifeline in this map, being 2 rounds down already.
It does definitely seem like Kula has the sort of master key to unlock the style that clawz is bringing to the table, and clawz, we'll have to see if he's able to force an adaptation as the series progresses here. I think that is a must if he wants to defeat Kula. One of the most experienced players that there is in Quake, and the engagement happens here. We've got the Mega there ready for the Sorlag of Kula. He's in a great position. clawz almost down, and Kula knows it. He's hot on the heels of clawz right now, but clawz, of course, very quick with this slash. Nice rail there, able to steal away that heavy as well. Really good work coming in from clawz to stay alive in this position. He might even be able to put the pressure straight back onto Kula. He knows Kula has to be low here, and here he goes, straight up the jump pad. But where on earth is Kula gone?
Oh, that is a critical rail that is going to halt that aggression right in the tracks. But just so far in the first minute, clawz hitting 3 or 4 very, very important rails, and this is what we were just talking about. Another one right coming out there. It is the rail game that's going to get clawz back into this, because those close corridor fights normally work in Kula's favor. So try and keep him at bay and play a little bit slower.
Quite a few close calls so far as clawz is able to stack up. Finds Kula, catches him off guard. That's a great string of LG damage, but you can't get too much more than that. And indeed, Kula with a nice defensive acid spit, able to really hurt clawz. clawz sent back to just stacking up here, trying to get what items he can before he can really press the aggression once more. So resetting the situation effectively with that acid spit.
Yep, it was pretty lucky. It didn't look like it did hit, but the one kind of particle must clip, and it does tick for obviously 10 per second or so, and against the Nyx, that is quite a considerable amount of stacks, so it doesn't, again, just...
clawz wants to end it right here, just diving straight into Kula. Good LG damage, but again, Slash so squishy, has to be careful, these close-range rockets. Great vertical shot with the rail, looking to finish Kula off. Can he find the pursuit here? Looks like he wants to take it slow. And again, you've mentioned, and we've talked about how this game mode is not really sort of like the old classic duel. It's not much about the war of attrition. We have to hold that fort here because it looks like clawz has an opportunity to perhaps force the issue, and he will do just that, taking down Kula's Sorlag and now putting himself a champion ahead.
Exactly, and you were just talking about the war of attrition, but the one thing about the Sorlag is clearly being a tankier champion, it relies on a large stack, and when you do get him low, it is quite a long time to get back up, particularly if you don't have the Mega at your disposal, and that's why clawz knew he had an opening to push him while the Sorlag didn't have enough time to collect the necessary house bubbles. So a great read and a perfect push in at the right time.
Stopwatch.
So how long can clawz hang on to this slash of his? So far he's been very death-defying with the speed and the very good aim, just making sure that if Kula's ever to try to pursue, he's always doing so much damage. It really makes a hard, or really brings about a hard decision for Kula whether or not he should go and pursue in an aggressive ghost walk here, straight onto Kula. Oh, great stuff there with the rockets. So much damage done. Forcing the ghost walk from Kula. Can clawz catch the rail shot he needs to finish off Kula? There he goes, straight towards the telly. It's the rockets to do it. And clawz will survive with 27 health. Another champion up. This is a very desperate situation for Kula. Caught off the spawn, the LG goes to work. And that's clawz with another frag and the round.
Whoa, that was intense. Kula completely misreading clawz's approach there. He believed that clawz was going to drop down through the LG channel to try and to catch Kula on the back end, but instead doubling back and Kula running right straight back into that rocket.
Some new rounds. clawz is 1 round down at the moment. Of course, Kula a quick 2, so it's good to see that clawz is able to respond here and prevent Kula from just reaching a quick victory here on Blood Covenant, fighting back, and that's, you know, some of the adaptation we were talking about.
Yeah, I felt clawz approached that game a lot better, utilizing the rail to great effectiveness and not taking fights that were not in the favor. He waited patiently until the openings came, and when the first frag came around 3 minutes, that was enough. But this time, Kula with the rail using it to great effectiveness, while clawz didn't have an approach.
Yeah, that's a really big problem for clawz there, and perhaps being a little bit too greedy. We saw him trying to get chip damage with the Zoom's heavy machine gun, and it was very likely his opponent had the rail there, so perhaps a misread, or maybe a lapse of focus, but we'll see what happens. Oh, connecting all the acid spit. I think 2 or 3 globs of it hit Anarchy straight in the face there. That's an easy second kill coming in the way of Kula. And of course, he is in the lead on the rounds. He just needs one more champion kill to secure a victory here on Blood Covenant. Great rail up the jump pad. clawz is in a lot of problems at the moment. A nice LG damage put on top of the bridge as Kula is waiting for this next pickup. And he must be feeling like he can close down this frag soon.
He is, and the split's back up now, so he can be a little bit more confident. I just expect him to play like he did in the first round. Playing the corners, waiting for the Slash to come into him. He just heard Slash going for the rail, so he needs to be a little bit more careful playing out in the open. This is why he's camping here.
Oh, that's a great catch, exactly as you described. And there's no escape, but
Wow.
the damage potential from clawz's LG truly is remarkable.
A little bit of Russian buttering coming out of Kula. That's highly frustrating because you make all the right decisions, you set a trap, and then monstrous LG coming out the Belarusian to just absolutely rape the Sorlag.
What do you think Kula was saying there?
I can't repeat.
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Yeah,
The Russian version of that?
Let's go with
perhaps?
that. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, well, we have clawz here. Oh, going for a rush down here. That's beautiful movement there from clawz. Has to connect that. Legendary LG's been talking up so much this tournament. He is going to be battered back, though, by the defensive play of Kula. Really nicely done there. And
This time, yeah, Kula holding his own and forcing clawz this time to retreat. Never mind, back up to the full starting stack at least, and looking healthy. He knows that Kula doesn't have a rail, so that is a priority to defend as well. As we mentioned before, the Ghost Walk was popped, and so time bubbles are also a priority.
going for those very, very hard rails is clawz. Unable to find anything just yet. Kula is playing remarkably well in the down position. This is something he was very well known for in all the previous iterations of Quake Duel in which he competed, able to just seemingly disappear from the map when he needs to.
Exactly, and having a champion advantage, even though there's 2 minutes left, I wouldn't expect Kula to make an aggressive move from now on. It's going to be him waiting for clawz to do it, having return damage, and if it's a full-on mistake, then he can push in.
And I suppose that's why clawz is really trying to go aggressive here. That's a great catch for the LG Kula, and you immediately there's no way he could have won that fight. Pops the Ghost Walk. That's the chance here for clawz. Oh, push down the rail curve towards the shots. That's a really big problem for clawz. That's an opportunity perhaps missed, but it might open itself up once more. Opportunity strikes.
He needs to be very careful here. Only 75. That's fine now, but there's no need to take a risk. There's still a minute and a half left, and you only need 1 kill, not 2, to at least tie it up. So good play, playing carefully. That's perfect.
Kula is so weak at the moment. Surely he can't hang on. He's going to have his Ghost Walk up again now, which will be excellent, but I think a single rail might be almost just enough to put him in a position where he will just die.
Yeah, it's the point of no return for Kula. There is not an aggressive move in his mind. It's just going to be playing defensive, keeping away, staying at corners, waiting for those sound cues, and trying not to pop the Ghost Walk unless it's a last resort. You want to hold on to that until the very last second.
I love the movement here from clawz. He's going to find Kula, and that's it. The Ghost Walk's gone, but that's a really good connection. He did so much damage to Kula. Oh, clawz completely lost track of Kula, and that is why Ghost Walk is so horrible to play against sometimes. Beautiful composure there from Kula. That is what we know him to play. Just disappears, super composed, very focused, even though he's in these very scary situations where he could die with a very aggressive clawz constantly rushing him down. Always looks calm.
Massively impressed from clawz, and I think the way I would describe at least the ending to that game is just inexperience. You don't have a stack, you'll massively damage yourself. Yes, you did a little bit of damage to Kula, and yes, he has been running away from you, but the opportunity presented itself where you were out of position, you didn't know where he was. It was a dramatic risk trying to jump for that red armor, and it cost him the game, essentially.
And this really is the big storyline between the two players. Of course, Kula, again, one of the most experienced players that we've ever had in Quake.
And we can see that shining through in every single decision he makes, that at every turn, he's always assessing what is my opponent doing and thinking and having that cognitive state to say, it doesn't matter about the items, it doesn't matter about the map. I need to know what my opponent is thinking. I need to get, it's almost like he's inside your head. He's like clawing at your brain, thinking, what is your decision making and how can I abuse that? It's a way of playing that I personally could never do, and I think many players can never do.
You mean the intelligent play style?
Yeah, I'm just brute.
Brute force.
But it's what you need to do, particularly against those very quick, aggressive champions, because they will be on top of you if you're not aware of exactly what you're doing, particularly the Slashes and the Anarchies of the world, in that it changes the whole dynamic of Quake as you know it, particularly coming from Quake Live and the previous iterations of Quake, that normal decision making and movement and kind of combat zones of Jewel is transformed because they break the mold. They can be on you in seconds that you're not expecting, so you have to be continually aware of their positioning and what they want to achieve. And if you can do that, then you're never caught off guard, and that always keeps you on even footing.
This is amazing for clawz as well, to be in the position that he knows he's up against a player that is an absolute legend, has the most experience perhaps of anyone here at this tournament in the very top level of competition. He's an underdog. In that sense, and he's a newcomer, so it's a really good experience in that sense. That I think that alleviates some level of pressure from him, but of course at the same time, he's going to be doing his best, his utmost to try to find a way to defeat Cooler. And obviously Cooler, as we've been talking about, he's the player that can not only be able to read read how you like to make decisions, but also read what your strengths of your lineup is going to be, and he's going to try to play against that, not allow you to reach that comfort zone. So it's a really interesting battle as we move on to Corrupted Keep.
And as we casted clawz earlier, I think he's got to this stage of the tournament relying heavily on his natural skills. And for him to become a champion, which I definitely think it has it in him, he needs to take the next step. He needs to then think slightly more outside the box and begin to adapt his play slightly. He can't just brute force his way through Cooler. But if he does take that necessary adaptation, become slightly more careful and aware of the situation, then definitely clawz can take the second map.
It remains to be seen. The players have had some time to compose themselves into the beginning of this next map. Of course, Cooler is up one, just having won the Blood Covenant that we opened up with here. And we're already going to see an exchange here as both players can pick up those weapons they initially want. Both players also going with the Sword here. Really good engagement here for Cooler. Perfect LG coming out from him. Now as we see clawz in a really weak spot. Cooler not pressing the issue here. He's allowing clawz to make a decision, and it's a decision that's going to cost him surely. Cooler himself getting quite low. The LG, what on earth was that? Cooler surely had every single advantage, but clawz seemingly out of nowhere able to win that fight.
clawz had no right to win that fight. Once again, Cooler making the right decision. clawz caught unaware, going up a jump pad and somehow wins a battle, pushing in aggressively here. And this time, Cooler. But that is twice in this game already. clawz has been caught unawares by Cooler's play. He just needs to think slightly more about what Cooler wants to achieve rather than what every other jeweler in the world would traditionally do. It's that next level up.
It's always very difficult to connect the air rockets reliably in this in Quake Champions. You guys still getting used to it, but have to hold that fort here. We have the LG coming to play once again by the Light's armor, and Cooler getting 4 back there actually on 12 health. That's really problematic, and that's a beautiful catch there from clawz. Again, just using the speed, a very optimal route there, catching Cooler off guard. He knew that he had to go for the HP. He knew that Cooler was so weak. And now he's got the pressure on as Cooler goes for the lightning gun. clawz, though, can't withstand the damage output of Cooler's Galena.
Bit disrespectful of Cooler's aim there, particularly off the spawn and picking up the lightning gun already.
Another push here with the Galena on that LG, and we can see that there's problems here for clawz. He doesn't really have all the weapons that he needs just yet. However, Cooler is not really in position to push the issue. Has to fall back onto the bigger items, of which there won't be spawning for another 10 seconds or so. So some decisions are there to be made here for how Cooler would like to position himself. And he's gone very passive, actually. And we'll see that here comes the Anarchy. The clawz is going to just drop on top of him with the rockets. That's beautiful work there for clawz. Very quick first round between these two.
What I like about that round is clawz taking the initiative. Yes, he got caught unaware the first couple of frags. But then he moved him in the Ghost Walk on the next, taking initiative. I really like it when players utilize the ability in that fashion. And then with the Anarchy, he knew Cooler only had the lightning gun, which is a standard, steady rate of output of damage. And so clawz had the opportunity to push him with a shotgun and back off with his own ability to heal up, knowing he was relatively safe.
That's a good amount of damage from nails there from clawz. That's going to put Cooler on the back foot. Although clawz dropping into the LG definitely gives Cooler a really nice damage output, but it's clawz on the pursuit here to get the advantage once again. Cooler just desperately trying to pick up HP at the moment. He's got no armor to his name. clawz knows he's got an opportunity here to capitalize into the first kill of this round, but once again, Cooler just staying alive, but he can't keep sustaining this damage here. The LG just keeps coming from clawz. He keeps pushing the issue, and there's still Cooler just running around here with the sword, like eventually goes down.
And this map is far more suited to the way clawz like to play. I was about to talk about at the start is I prefer the sword-like pick over the slash now. But there isn't those cheeky corners for Cooler to try and trap clawz. he can get on top of Kula and pressurize him with that, what you've just seen, unbearable lightning gun aim.
clawz in a good position here, but that changes things somewhat. Gets caught by some LG, though, of course, being Sorlag still has quite the stack to fight with. He's going to push this. That's a really nice string of LG there, just in the nick of time there to catch that heavy pickup as well. And looking to get a nice one off the spawn. Galena using the totem to heal up here, but it won't be enough. Just no items there for Kula. That's a really fast round.
Really fast, 1 minute 27. Well, just great pressure from clawz and slightly greedy on the items. There was no need for Kula to be there with the nicks on the red. He had no right to be there, and clawz made him pay. Just now it's Kula's turn. He is being outmatched on these one-on-one fights, and clawz is being able to get on top of him. So Kula just needs to, I think, move away from the lightning gun.
And here it is, trying to push the fight up into Kula, who's stuck by this lightning gun. He's got to just do as much damage as physically possible. He might not win the fight, but he will, with a mere 29 health remaining. What can clawz do off the spawn, though? He is on that Nyx now, as Kula is forced to go stacking up. And clawz is going to realize that there is a window of time where he's able to pick up items that he needs, where Kula's not in a position to want to take a fight. He's still low, he's still recovering his cooldown there to get the acid spit up. So Kula out of the action there for a good 20 seconds or so, but he's ready and raring to go, and that's exactly what's going to happen. The LGs are brought to bear, but it's going to be Kula who's just too strong. That's a wall of meat that the Galena's running into, and that's going to be another successful fight here.
Again, I think... Wow, okay.
These rounds, man, they're so quick.
This is crazy.
Kula's really good at hitting those acid blocks. Like, he just hits all the spurts of acid.
He's a Sorlag pro, my friend.
He's really good on the Sorlag, yeah.
I said I like clawz taking the initiative, but that was like a step too far. He needs to rein it in a little bit. He has obviously an amazing faith in his aiming ability, but Kula is no slouch, and you need to pick and choose which fights you're going to take.
Yeah, LG doing a lot of damage here. Trying to use the acid spit to get an advantage in this fight, but the LG's just simply too strong, and you have to wonder.
It's another fight you don't need to take. It's just far too aggressive. It's high risk, semi-high rewards. So a lot of time it's not worth to sacrifice your life for something that might not or probably won't pay off.
And we have a brilliant use of the Ghost Wall there. clawz getting in on top of Kula. Down to 27, but the Mega's there to help him recover as he makes his way back to the Heavy. Should be spawning soon, looking to catch Kula. And obviously, Kula doesn't really have any weapons at the moment, so there is a lot of options here for clawz to get aggressive, or at least initially there was. But now Kula's picked up the LG, and clawz is not in a favorable engagement, moving up the stairs into it, but still alive and kicking. clawz doesn't want to continue the engagement, a bit too uncertain to him, perhaps, as to who would win the fight. And indeed, disengaged for both players to stack up once again.
Yeah, so it does seem clawz has plus back bound. I was unsure at the start of this map.
Rocket in there as, once again, the pressure comes in onto the next big item, using the Ghost Walk aggressively, and it's not going to pay off. Brilliant positioning there from Kula to basically eliminate clawz's ability to surprise him.
Exactly, and the great thing from that fight is the way Kula turned around before the Nyx appeared. It was, again, that natural intuition that Quake players have, where is my opponent? Why am I not being shot at? That must mean he is invisible.
It's a brilliant position there around the Mega. It's a really hard spot, though. He doesn't really have the health to commit and stand on it directly, and so he will sadly have to watch that Mega get taken away. And this is not a good situation here. Caught in the doorway, and an easy rocket from clawz there to finish off Kula.
I like the Galena pick. Against the lightweight champions, we see the totems be very effective.
This is big, this is really big. And there it is, clawz going to take it, 3-1.
Wow, that was quick.
Beautiful stuff there from clawz, showing some fire, showing some fight against the Russian legend.
It just shows that an all-out aggressive play can work if you hit your shots. Kula was never able to settle there. Yes, there were a few pretty dumb decisions made on clawz's side, but Kula didn't have the time to play his game, get a few items, stack up, and particularly true as when the Sorlag was up the equation. I think that was one of the tactics of clawz there, just get rid of the Sorlag at any cost. Once that was happened, he knew that he could push in and push in and push in because Kula didn't have the stack to sustain any sort of rush, and he never let really Kula move off spawn. So it was a showcase on how to play aggressive with a few kind of minor discrepancies where he went too aggressive.
And it's a very big contrast between the first map where we saw Kula was able to play a style that really was suited to deal with very fast-moving characters, able to get the information, play the information game, have that superiority there, play the traps. He didn't have space to do that on
and clawz didn't let him. There are ways to do it on Corrupted Keep. It's obviously exceptionally difficult given the naturally confined nature of the map. But clawz, at the end of the day, said, okay, I'm not letting you do that. I'm just going to run at you and run at you and run at you. And we've seen Razy do that, for example, when this nearly took Rafa out the tournament, but essentially running at him with a Sorlag. Ruins of Sarnath is the last map. I think I saw it on the players' screens. That is a definitely different challenge. We casted clawz on it before, and this was the map he actually struggled a little bit against Gelasak against.
Against his Anarchy.
It was against an Anarchy, yes, and we won't see an Anarchy coming out of Kula.
Absolutely.
But we will see a Sorlag coming out of Kula, and that in itself is obviously a massive problem because you can utilize these corners of the map extremely well. It is more open than Blood Covenant, but at the same time there are lots of opportunities to retreat, and particularly lots of opportunities to utilize sound cues. This map is obviously very open and you can hear a lot more than you can on other maps. And that's definitely going to favor clawz's game, being able to slow it down. And if he can slow it down effectively, clawz has to adjust. If he doesn't, he's just going to be running into him once again.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what clawz's efficacy will be. You know, again, just looking at it from the perspective of this is not Blood Covenant, and that really did seem to be. I mean, would you say that that's the best map for the style that Kula wants to play against clawz? Is that the most optimal situation?
I think most definitely. It's one of those maps where the routes these champions need to take in terms of the Anarchies and the Slashes is most obvious with the long rounded curves, and we saw Kula setting up traps there every single time. It was either on the bridge or on the curves where the time shards are. And every single time, clawz was running into him because he knew that's where those champions need to go. This map isn't as set in stone. And that does, again, give clawz a little bit of a lifeline. So, but on the flip side, moving off the back of just demolishing Kula and Corrupted Keep, I can't see why clawz would want to change his game style.
Yeah, I mean, the thing ultimately is the case that you never want to over-adapt, basically. You want to have in your game plan, when you're at a tournament, sort of a range of adaptation that you can kind of make. You never want to go too far because then you play too much out of your comfort zone. A lot of those decisions which are intuitive, you start having to think about pretty much every single decision all of a sudden, and then you just don't play as optimally. So it's definitely one of those sort of balances you have to strike as a professional player, and something that these guys are going to have a lot of experience in doing. So I would hope that we don't see anything drastically different, that they are going to be trying to play in their comfort zones, because I think both players are incredibly strong. They're very good at their styles of play, and really it's just going to be about who is going to be more on point here today when it really matters, because peaking is also another skill that every professional player needs to have, peaking throughout the tournament.
So we've just seen a trough on Corrupted Keep with Kula. Do we think we see a peak on the final map, like up, down, up? Is that how it works? So for clawz, has gone trough, peak, trough?
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
No, I don't know about these peaks and troughs.
I'm intrigued because this is also obviously the final round. On the first map, it's all right. You can throw it away a little bit. It's the first map of a best of 3. You're very confident moving into your own map. You're not. Obviously, it's not the best in the world to lose, but you have another chance. This is the final chance, and this is obviously, I think this is clawz's biggest tournament. And so how much is that nerves going to affect him moving into the final map of the game? And we haven't seen throughout the tournament him really take any detour from his hyper-aggressive style. So if it's not working, is there an option B? That's the biggest question I have at the moment for clawz.
All right, well, looks like we are just getting the players connected back onto the server. Should be a couple minutes, I am told. So tell your family, tell your friends. You got time, got a couple minutes to get their eyes on Quake champions here at QuakeCon 2017. It's been a remarkable tournament so far. I've had a lot of very exciting moments. I think every match in the quarterfinals has just kind of blown all of us away. So
I've been, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised, but it's been amazing how every single one of these games we've seen today has pretty much gone to the wire.
Is there a moment that sort of stands out to you? Because there's been some, obviously, pretty clutch moments that have happened throughout today.
Except seeing Clutch himself.
Yeah.
I think for me...
That was a disgusting joke, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Just want you to know that.
Thank you. That's what I like to do. No, for me, the defining moment was the final map, Avec against Vu. Throughout that whole series, it was incredible the way it went back and forth. But within that map itself, there were so many dynamics that went on. It was just fascinating to see that the way in which each player changed the way in which they were approaching the match, almost on a round-by-round basis, going from aggressive to passive to positional. There was just so many different styles coming out, so many mind games on play.
For me, it's just the rail that Rafa hit onto Razy. That's really...
You're simpleton, man. Like,
I am, but that was
I'm thinking
clutch,
about
man.
the way that the game
clutch.
evolves, and it's got its own personality. And then you're like, yeah, that was a great shot. Cool.
Come
Mic
on.
drop moment from DDK.
You wouldn't hit that shot.
You talking about, bro?
Hey, you pick up your LG, not your clutch rails. So,
I can hit a clutch rail or two.
I mean, why is it that you didn't compete ZSX? I feel like you should have been in there. You should have thrown the gauntlet down for the United Kingdom.
I thought I'd let others have a shot. You know, Zoot was involved.
See, well, he was involved.
He was involved. What about you? I thought we'd see you here.
I know.
And then what happened at the regionals?
I failed, mate. I failed.
I'm glad you actually straight up admitted it. That takes a big man.
I mean, you've got to admit your failures. It's actually quite. I was actually really sad because it's been a very long time since I've competed. And I forgot actually how depressing it is to lose. Because you put loads of time and effort into it. You're practicing every day. You're sacrificing a lot of other social activities. You're super focused on this one goal.
And then
you
your
fail.
world crumbles around you.
And especially when you think that you really think and everyone's like, yeah, you should have won this.
And then you got knocked out by a British team as well.
No, not completely British.
Britain and they're half British actually.
Yeah.
Maestro, either way.
Only a couple Brits, but at least there's that. There is that. We had some British representation moving forwards. But yeah, it's and that's the thing too, because if you look at, for example, at Kula throughout this tournament, we can see how much it really means to him to come back to play, to compete at Quake, despite the fact that he's done this for decades.
Yeah,
basically.
for me, that's been one of the most touching things, is seeing every single round he's been on the stage, every single round he's won, is the actual emotion going into him. Yeah, he says nothing's been hard, it's all been easy, there's a bit of arrogance coming out, but that's a bit of showmanship as well. And it just means the world to him. I mean, also watching people like Vu play, you didn't see it on stage, but when he beat Kilson, I've got it on my phone, cheering and screaming and banging the table and having that picture of his family in front of him. There's a lot of emotional connections to the game because it is their livelihood, it is their life, and it's also the nice thing about this game is their passion as well.
Yeah.
And so to see that come through after all these years is just pretty amazing.
I think there's nothing quite like competition. You can't really replace it because you can be like, oh, I'm an old man now, moving on with my life.
I've gone a bit grey actually.
Got to get a job and all this stuff, and maybe get some education.
Job, you're a bit of a dosser.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's been an amazing journey. It's just great to be a part of it. It's kind of a feel bad man moment, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, is there any player that you feel like in this tournament you expected them to do much better than they did, and then they had maybe one of those moments where it's like, oh God, they sort of they failed in a spot where they shouldn't have, or you feel like they shouldn't have?
I don't think it's that players have failed. There are a few players I would expect to go further. I think on the flip side, it's the opposition doing a lot better than I expected. So someone like Vu getting to the semi-finals, beating Avec, who I had pinned down as perhaps winning the tournament based on previous experiences. Avec didn't fail.
He played really well. That's
Avec was incredible in that series.
Just have to shout out to Vu because he is one of. I mean, we for us who have seen him compete in the past, especially since the Painkiller days, he's one of those players that just has inbuilt this mindset of the champion, basically.
Yeah.
His composure and focus when he's on an important match is unparalleled.
And I was about to say, if you're an up-and-coming player, and I think he is kind of the epitome of a role model. You have all these amazing players like Kula, clawz, that have natural gifts for the game. And Vu obviously is one of them, but in terms of the raw skill set, you wouldn't class him as the elite level. It's all in the mentality that he doesn't get fazed when the pressure hits him. And that is what separates the champion. And it shows you don't need to be the most gifted player in the world in order to reach the highest echelons of the game.
And speaking of pressure, it looks like these players are about to kick off the action once again. I saw them in the character select, and that means we're about to kick off the third and final map between Kula and clawz here at QuakeCon 2017. Which player will advance? Will it be the legend, or will it be the new man from Belarus, clawz, as we now continue things on Ruins of Sarnath?
Who's your money on?
Let's get into the game. We have We have this horror, this crazy dynamic. It's just these two narratives. I mean, it's so hard.
It was a
For
simple
me,
question.
For me, it's got to be Cooler, I guess.
All
In
right,
that
thank
sense,
you.
I got to go with the old man. You know, I find that relatable. You know.
Yeah, yes, I could actually appreciate that. I think my heart says clawz, my head says cooler. But just because
Why does your heart say clawz?
Just because I love.
Well, never mind. We don't have time to answer this
I
question
love
right
aggression.
now. Well, it's going to be perhaps an aggressive start here. This Cooler already spotting clawz, just diving onto him. He's only got the rockets. Oh, that was so close. Very nicely timed. Use of the ability there of Ghost Walk, and then the re-engage from clawz. Cooler is going to feel like that was daylight robbery. It's stolen away from him, and clawz will start off well.
Yeah, Harry Houdini puffing through the rocket and pushing in with an aggression move here. But the great finishing move of that entire event was the fact that Cooler did not see the Ghost Walk being used aggressively.
So now things will settle down somewhat as both players get some distance between one another and begin to collect all the weapons. Cooler missing that ever so powerful LG, and that's something he's going to be thinking about. He's going to want to try to stick to engagements that make sense for the weapons he has for now, but he does find a clear route to pick up that LG, and now he's got all the weapons he needs. He hasn't got Ghost Walk just yet. He's got to be careful. That teleporter is going to keep him out of harm's way for the time being, but down to 45 health means he's very vulnerable. Gets to drop the rocket. Doesn't quite connect as he'd hoped, but he does get a good idea as to where his opponent is, which is very important.
And we can see on this map, Cooler obviously looking more comfortable, being able to use the sound cues, and that was obviously the key ingredient missing on Corrupted Keep. So Cooler back to the style he wants to play, nice and slow.
Speaking of nice and slow, clawz is also applying the same idea, just holding off, using that high ground positioning, trying to find out that information. Nice. But he's got rails for days as clawz finishes off Cooler. Cooler was not expecting that one, and he's down to a single champion. It's Ranger against the Knicks.
We said in the pre-match, how was clawz going to play this match? Is he going to go full retard and just rush and rush and rush for days? But no. At the moment, it seems that he is playing calculated just as well, matching up to what Cooler is putting out.
clawz, great long-range rail, not even needing the zoom. That's harder than it looks. And now he's going to go off into the connector position, looking to get a finishing engagement perhaps, but he can't quite find Cooler, so able to use his positional advantage to quickly sweep away the big items. Now he can go for the engagement. That's beautiful there. The aggressive Ghost Walk. Cooler surely knows that he's got a clawz hot on his heels here, and there it is, the LG finishing off Cooler's last champion, and that is round one to clawz, the new blood.
Perfect round. This is what we wanted to see on Blood Covenant, utilizing the rail, and then pushing in following that, and I think that's the way you need to play against Cooler, because Cooler obviously wants to set up those traps. And if you're just playing the rail game, then you're not giving the opportunity. And if you're pushing in, even if he is setting up a trap, he's already low enough for you to finish him off. And if he's not, you just get in there for a clean kill, and that's perfect.
Once again, we see clawz taking the high ground position, looking for the info. Great rail connected, though, onto the Sorlag, finding just such a slight angle there to hit that one. Obviously, Sorlag is one of the bigger champions that you can definitely use those big hitboxes to find greater accuracies, but looks like there's going to be a challenge here straight into the heavy. Sticking around is Cooler, and somehow he hits a rail, picks up the heavy, and again, the stack of the Sorlag so useful, but he's going to run into clawz straight off the spawn. He just picked up an LG, and that's very unfortunate for Cooler.
Yeah, I think moving in here, I think Cooler rocket jumped out of the red in order to try and not force that spawn. He knew it was a possibility, and if he got close to it, then there was a chance he might have denied it and tried, or at least got there when clawz was getting the lightning gun, and then he could pressure him subsequently. Either way, it didn't pay out. clawz got the lightning gun first.
And using those rockets to great effect from above, and clawz just sticking around perhaps for a little bit too long, and it's a great point about controlling the weapons here. And speaking of which, there's no time really to talk about that one. Get a very nice little smile there from Cooler as he knows what just happened. clawz now down to just the Anarchy.
Yeah, and that other frag.
Great rail connected there, but it's not enough. clawz, great finishing blow there, 2-0 for him.
That cheeky laugh, I think, was him laughing a little bit at the game, because after that kill, he stood and waited at the lightning gun side until he saw clawz spawned. And again, I think because he was low on the Knicks without the Ghost Walker, I think he was saying, please don't spawn here, please don't spawn here, and utilizing his position to try and not force it. And clawz still managed to spawn right behind him.
Cooler has a great spawn here into this round, and of course, clawz only needs a single more round win, and he is going to move forwards. QuakeCon 2017, the stakes are high, they couldn't be higher. The pressure surely will start to seep in now as clawz is close. Kula has an advantage on the weaponry, trying to play off with this. The LG damage coming in. The rockets, though, quite amazing, in fact. And Kula, he's in a lot of trouble right now. We've got the aggressive Ghost Wall coming in. Can clawz finish him off? Yes, he can. Rockets will be the weapon to finish off Kula. And that's one champion down.
This is incredible. clawz is 2 kills away from taking out Kula from QuakeCon, meaning he might be limited to another 3rd place.
clawz. Here it is. Looks like an aggressive move coming in from Kula straight for the telly. And the rockets.
Whoa.
Oh, he's going to somehow get it. I don't even know how he could pull the trigger in time for that last one. Picks up the kill. That's massive there to take Kula down. Everything now rests upon this last champion for Kula. The Ranger, can he make it work? The aggression comes in, the LG is good here for clawz.
He knows he's
Fighting
on
it
the
back,
ropes.
and there it is! Kula is out, clawz somehow makes it work. A quick 3-0 sweep into the finals. Beautiful stuff there from clawz. The start of something new.
clawz doesn't even look phased. That final map was just so easy. So easy. And it's not like clawz had some magical tactic. He just played extremely well. He hit the shots he needed to hit, and he didn't overcommit until he hit them. It was a simple style, and Kula just had nothing, no response. It's not like Kula played badly whatsoever. He just didn't match up to clawz on this day.
And what an amazing moment there for clawz to actually pull that out of the bag. You can see, I don't even think that he knows how to feel right now, because the journey's not yet over. And that's one thing as well. You don't want to sort of overstep it with the emotions here. You've got to stay composed, because I mean, he has a great chance to take it all.
This is probably the most gifted up-and-coming Quake player today, and he's shown that he has the championship material.
Absolutely, I'm so excited. And now it's time to throw it back to the desk to see their thoughts. What did you guys make of that one?
Well, we have our first finalist, clawz, of course, but I want to reference something that you guys said early on during game 1, where you said, you know, if clawz just kind of turned things down a little bit, but just kind of like played his game a little bit more, which I don't think Cooler let him do in that first game. I think Cooler played Cooler's game and he tried to adapt. But then in game 2 and game 3, I feel like clawz did exactly what he needed to do. He slowed it down a little bit.
I feel like clawz was getting used to the stage as well at the beginning. This is the first time international presence, being on the big stage, a lot of people watching you. And after that first map, I think the nerves started to unravel a little bit, and he seemed absolutely fine. He was hitting harder. He says he hits harder than Tox, and I think he hits harder than Tox.
There was some amazing rails that came up from him. His LG was on point. We saw some of those smirks come from Cooler, like, yep, you know, that was good, or that shocked me, you got me. He had that last, that one-hit machine gun kill at the end there to kind of take that second round in the 3rd map. Vic, I want to hear from you. You know, a champion's taken down, Cooler. He is going to be competing in the 3rd and 4th place spot. But clawz, we got some new blood in the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, to be 19 and you see that hit scan aim, it makes you think, you know, I know Cooler's been around and we talked about tournament experience. And you seem to see that in the first map, because I felt clawz kind of was rushing it a little bit. We were, like, as I mentioned, we were talking. I said, hey, I think he needs to just slow it down a tad, because Cooler was setting some good traps for him. And then clawz really got things going in the second map, really got into his groove and ran with it from there. And yeah, you got to give credit, man. This kid, what a killer. That lightning gun of his, I mean, there were some things, I mean, we were all watching it.
It was making Vic jealous, for sure.
Yeah, oh man, it was totally making me jealous.
Let's